Mikasa Sukasa. You Eddie, right?
Yeah.
Look like Eddie Guerrero, man. You like to watch wrestling?
Yep.
Have you ever watched wrestling? On weed? That's the way to see it, man! It's rock!
What up, world? It's your boy Physics, and you know what time it is. It's April 15th. Welcome to another Wild News Joint. On today's episode, we're talking about the ending of this past week's AEW Dynamite and what that means for AEW. We're also talking about name changes within WWE, who are the top baby faces and heels on the women's side when it comes to Raw, the AEW video game, and more right after this.
Really? This is my yard now. It doesn't matter what
Welcome back, Wild Nation. We got Gruss in the building. The super villain of the IWC is in the building. Shout out to everybody that's in Wild Nation. Make sure if you're not watching this live to leave a comment and I will respond to you in the comment section. If you are here live, you are in the chat, holla at your boy. We're bringing it back to the early 2000s. William H. Holla. Shout out to DJ Clue. Illuminati. Anyways, let's get to the first news joint of today, and that is the last few minutes of AEW Dynamite, what that means and why did it even happen. Now, the wrestling war was a flutter when Tony Khan dropped that AEW was going to go over 30 minutes. It's usually a big thing when wrestling events go over due to time, due to the fact that, it costs money to, pay those arenas to go over. Although when it comes to AEW, they do Rampage right afterwards. So them going over only cuts into the time of Rampage. But they were going 30 minutes live. So, they were also cutting it into TNT's time. So once you hear that, the first thing you think is, hey, what are they about to do? Is Bray Wyatt about to come out? Like, is something super important is going to happen? And then Samoa Joe versus Minoru Suzuki. He wins the ROH TV title. Lights go out. Is it Bray Wyatt? Who is this mysterious person that's going to be there? Crowd is going wild, pandemonium like a B2K album. But no, it wasn't Bray Wyatt. It was Satnam Singh, the 7'2" first Indian NSYNC player to be drafted in NBA by the Dallas Mavericks, who was recently banned for doping from international play. It was him. Did the crowd know who that was? No. Fans had no idea who this guy was, other than he was the latest in 7-foot wrestlers who uses the skull crushing vice grip as the go-to move because that's the only move they know. All they know is they looked at him, saw that he was green, and that was it. It was similar to angles that WWE has done plenty of times, which they've technically done recently with Veer Singh. With Veer. So there we are. So why? Why did this happen? Why did any of this happen? And Dave Meltzer broke down why we had to go through what we saw, and Dave Meltzer stated, the ending of Dynamite, which featured the debut of Satnam Singh, was designed to build the AEW brand in India and has a lot to do with the Warner Media Discovery merger. AEW has been on television on the Discovery-owned channel Eurosport India, a deal Tony Khan made based on the impending merger. As part of the first week after the Discovery merger, Tony Khan wanted to shoot an angle that would be a breakthrough in that market, using someone of some renown in that country as the only Indian-born player ever drafted by the NBA, when Singh was a second-round draft choice by the Dallas Mavericks in 2015. So, the usual thing, trying to flood the market. Based on Meltzer's report, Tony Khan's motivation for shooting this angle was because it was good for business. The merger between Warner Media and Discovery creates a lot of uncertainty for AEW futures. For example, Discovery might be less interested in shelling out big bucks on AEW's next television deal, for which negotiations will likely begin towards the end of 2022. Khan's decision here is partially motivated by a desire to make Discovery happy, per Meltzer. In an update, a new report from Five Select notes that multiple AEW talents did not think Singh's debut was executed well. However, many do believe that the business side of the decision was a good one. It was noted that several AEW talent had the same reaction that many fans on social media had, with some indicating that it was a matter of circumstances that made the debut fall flat, from the positioning on the card to the lights off, lights on reveal. One AEW source felt that doing a lights on, lights off reveal for an unknown talent isn't optimal, and that AEW should have introduced Singh in another way. There's some optimism within AEW roster as people are hearing that the debut was a business move to help AEW in India, but most still do not feel the execution was done the right way. One source indicated that if accelerating the growth in India would help their salary when it comes time for contract renewal negotiations, then they're willing to accept a bad debut because their pockets are getting lined anyways. AEW announced back in September that Singh was to begin training immediately under QT Marshall and WWE superstar Cody Rhodes at the Nightmare Factory. QT's not ignorant of how things went on Wednesday on Busted Open Radio. He stated, he's really special. I'm excited that they got him out there. Obviously, I read some of the stuff that people were saying about him. Listen, he's brand new. You got to give him a chance. I think the best way to put someone out there is to put them out there with guys with a lot of experience. No one knows what he's going to do. It's not like he's going for the world title. One source noted that Singh has been very good in the ring so far and has been training every day for the past 8 months. It was also said that Singh has some tricks up his sleeves that will surprise some people. WWE ended up trolling AEW doing a most dominant in-ring debut via a YouTube video and put the Great Khali at number 1 a day after the Dynamite event. Now, this was it was good for business thing. This is the only reason that Tony Khan did it. He's trying to also be buddies with Discovery because, like stated, contract negotiations for their TV deals coming up, and unlike WCW, AEW is basically a production company for TNT. Like they're not a part of TNT and TBS. You know, they put on AEW puts on the shows. TNT, TBS, Warner at the time pay for the fee to show it. Like, they're not basically a part of the program. They're part of the program as long as they pay them. But outside of that, they don't really have to go too far as, how much of a bottom line does this do with Warner? Um, that's basically it. They're just paying a fee to show them, rather than they are exclusive programming that they definitely need to have on TNT. If that was the case, then AEW on YouTube most likely would not be happening. It will probably be behind a paywall, either on it probably would have been on HBO Max. If that was the case, or TNT's app, that the only way you'd be able to watch AEW Dark would have been through there. But since they're getting paid to show AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage on TNT and TBS, then that's why they're able to have this offsite thing. So now that we have, India, like it's stated earlier, Tony Khan made sure to sign this deal by himself because he knew that they were owned by Discovery, so that he's already good with them. The issue is, I mean, this is a constant thing. WWE has done this a bunch of times. They do it because they want to make sure that they have the Indian market. When I was in the Maldives, they literally had a channel that showed nothing but WWE things. They had a whole Undertaker thing going on the week before WrestleMania, showing the 30 years of the Undertaker, and that was like the whole day. Every time I would come back into the room and turn it to the channel, Undertaker stuff was going on. So wrestling is big there, and it's crazy that they will jump up people just to make sure that the bottom line of their dollar is good, which makes me wonder. So let's say let's say there was a channel that all of Africa gets. That's millions, there's billions of people all in Africa. You have billions of viewership. Whenever there's a football game, literal football, ton of people watch it. Would that mean that WWE or AEW would find them an African wrestler or just a black wrestler in general and shoot them up because of that? We all know WWE and WWE China has been trying their longest to do something, but we don't see, Bow and NXT getting shoot up to WWE to make sure that they have somebody represented. It's just kind of interesting that the representation doesn't go both ways. It just seems to only be for the Indian market, and I get it. They have a huge market, billions of people, ton of people watching every time a wrestling thing is on. I get that he's trying to push that, but is it being good for business a slippery slope? We've seen when it comes to WWE what it's good for business means, and it never does well. You get these feuds and you get these storylines, and then at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It turns into a blip of history, and nobody remembers any of it. So that's just basically it. They say he has some tricks up his sleeve in the ring, unless he's going to do a moonsault off the top rope, which Paul White, aka the Giant, used to be able to do, and he only did it once on TV. But it seems like nobody recorded that on VHS. But unless he's going to do that, I don't understand what craziness he's going to be able to do. Let's see what's going on. Gruss says, have you guys watched those Nightmare Factory student showcase shows? Some are horrible. Well, everybody can't be Booker T, as unfortunately. Seems Booker T has it locked down when it comes to building wrestlers up. That just seems where we are right now. And Gruss says, if AEW wants to make it, they need India and the UK market. And as you see, they're going for India. I'm gonna get, definitely they're gonna build the UK market. I think their biggest issue is NXT's there. NXT UK is doing pretty well. So, a lot of the A lot of the best wrestlers in the UK are, of course, Progress, but a lot of them do work for NXT UK. So they're gonna have to figure out a way how to poach that, but not only that, have enough time to showcase those wrestlers there. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do bring them in there. It's going to turn into British rules matches and things like that. And of course, William Regal's going to be ahead of that, and it's just going to look like NXT UK light whenever those UK wrestlers pop up. It just seems like the route we're most likely ending up going into, unfortunately. But hey, this thing fall flat. They're putting him in a thing with Samoa Joe. When you put people, less talented people with experienced people in the ring, it usually falls on the side of it could be okay to it could be really good, really surprising. So putting him in there with Samoa Joe, very smart, but we'll see what goes from this. I wouldn't even be surprised if this dwindles down within the next month, especially if there's rumblings that what they're supposed to be getting from Discovery Warner merger doesn't really help. But we'll hint about a little bit about that later on in the show. Let's move on to the next segment. Now, on Wednesday's episode, I broke down who were top baby faces and heels within Raw and SmackDown on the men's division. Now, let's break down who are the top baby faces and heels on the women's side, especially when it comes to Raw. Now, Raw Women's Champion Bianca Belair is currently listed internally as the top female baby face on WWE's Red brand roster, according to PW Insider. She earned it. That is definitely hers. While Alexa Bliss, Mrs. Bliss, who just got married this past weekend, is most likely on her honeymoon, so we probably will not see her for another 2 weeks, and we haven't seen her since Elimination Chamber, is currently the number 2 babyface. And number 3 is Rhea Ripley, who might be doing a heel turn, which would then switch her to the next time, but she is currently the number 3 baby face. Regarding the heels on Raw, we all know who number 1 is. That is Becky Lynch. We haven't seen her since WrestleMania, but don't be surprised if she pops back up very soon. Also on that side, we don't really have who's number 2, number 3, but we do know where they are on WWE's internal list, and that's Carmella and Queen Zelina Vega are listed on the heel side of the female roster on Raw. Of course, they dropped the WWE Tag Team Championships to Boss and Glow at WrestleMania 38 and split up due to Carmella for their wedding and the honeymoon with Corey Graves. They got the number 1 and they got the number 1s on both sides correct. What they definitely need to do is build up more fearsome opponents on the hillside. Carmella and Queen and Zelina Vega aren't the ones that are going to be really going for belts. Of course, Sonya Deville is an authority figure. She can go either way depending on how the crowd treats her. If she's doing heelish things or she's doing things that the fans like, they're going to go either way on her. But Rhea Ripley turning heel should be the next best thing that can happen, so we can have a number 2 on that side. And of course, we've had a ton of matches, great matches between Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, and also Asuka. People that are not there, Asuka, Bayley, we got to put one of them on Raw to have them as a heel. And of course, we're at this weird place right now where people are doing unification of belts, and it seems like the brand split is possibly ending. But until it's official, there needs to be a lot more heels as far as women goes on the women's side, because we definitely need it. Now, moving on, we're going to talk about names. Last Wednesday, I talked about Vince with Wade when it came to Gunther and Keith Lee. Now let's talk about names. WWE Chairman CEO Vince McMahon reportedly issued a recent decree on superstars' ring names. There have been recent changes to WWE superstar ring names, and the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that rosters recently received a memo that included a decree from Vince who doesn't want anyone new using their real names anymore or names they've used before on the indies. There are obviously exceptions to the rule, like every rule. It was noted that the decree applies mostly to people just coming to the main roster, but obviously do not apply to Cody Rhodes or Gable Steveson. It was announced this past week that Austin Theory is now just going by Theory. The Observer notes that Theory's name was changed because his real name is Austin White. I'll say this. Thank God, wrestlers like Keith Lee and Tommaso Ciampa, all of them got in super early. They got into WWE super early during the Triple H reign, because if they did not, there's no telling what their names would be. Ricochet's name probably would bounce right now, or Bounce McKenzie. Of course, we know Walter is now Gunther. Samoa Joe. I don't know. They probably just would name a Pacific Islander. That's probably his name, or Pacific Ali. So of course Raquel Rodriguez. And as Gross says, please change Raquel Rodriguez's name to Raquel. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, or just RR. You know, we're at a point where that's exactly what they probably would do when it comes to WWE. And also, it was like Finn Balor, cool. You know, he's not Prince Devitt, even though they're still go back and forth using a Prince thing. So what do? I guess if you've already made a name, because they say indie scene. So like, what if it's just never gonna happen? But hypothetically, Young Bucks end up there. You know, they are the I guess they turn into the Milwaukee Deers, or the seasoned Deers. They're the seasoned Deers. Are we not naming them? Can they not be Matt and Nick? Do they have to have a whole new name if that ever to happen? No, because they will be the exception. But what about other big stars that have been doing their things for years in the indie scenes? Are they going to have to change their name? It just seems stupid. I feel like when them bringing in those wrestlers that are just getting in, it makes sense. Nobody knows who they are. If you want to change their name, go for it. They're doing it with Roxy at the moment. She's making her debut on NXT Level Up tonight. She's not going by Roxy anymore. Understandable. Yeah, she's been in the game for 6 years, from 14 to 20 years old. Now she's in NXT WWE. It makes sense to change her name. She could have a longer career with this new name rather than than she's had in the indie scene. But when you're dealing with big names like, Brody King and all, like, are you really going to change their names? And they most likely will. They don't really care at this moment. But it's getting a little bit ridiculous that people just can't even have full names anymore. Just allow people to have full names. The whole one name thing is just it's weird, especially for certain characters. And not only that, y'all then start adding adjectives to names. Like now it's Seth freaking Rollins. We just can't say Seth Rollins by itself anymore. Like, relax with the names. There was nothing wrong with Walter. He built it up. You should have just allowed him to come with it. And I think he would have a lot bigger fanfare with Walter than he has with Gunther. If he came in and everybody's like, oh my God, it's Walter, because we've seen Walter in a Royal Rumble. He wasn't Gunther when he was in a Royal Rumble. So why change his name now? It's like he's never been seen. He's already been on the program. And as Gruss says, just have a good WWE name. That's all I'm asking. And that's all we ask. Like, they've hit gold. They know how to make names. But when people have came in and they have good names, there's no reason to change them when their names are already good. What is the point? What is the point? The name's already good. Just keep it that way. And if they built that name on NXT, just let them do it. Like, that's the point of NXT. Is not to take that name and then just throw it away like it doesn't exist. Y'all built it up. It's your company. Be more confident in the product that you're putting out. And please stop treating fans like they're stupid. That is the one big thing that AEW has constantly had over WWE. And that is not making sure that you're not treating your fans like stupid. And as Lalo says, money. It is about money. And I also feel like the reason why with Austin Theory is because they don't want to go to a point where they're like Austin White, Austin Theory. Since that's a part of his name, can we really claim it? And also, like the main reason for why they're not changing, they want indie wrestlers to change their name, is because when it comes to trademarking, especially when wrestlers are wrestling under their real name or a name that they came up with, especially a real name, WWE has to get permission to use that name. Or if the wrestler already owns it, which a lot of new indie wrestlers are doing, which is a very smart thing, they have to ask, hey, can we profit off your name solely owned by the WWE? And usually when they do that, they don't try to do it like how when a new player comes to a basketball team or football team and another player has their number and they go, hey, we will pay you this X amount of money for that name. They don't ask that. They just ask, can we solely have it put in your contract? Maybe they give some incentives, but from what I've heard, they usually don't. They go, oh, so since we can't own your name, let's just make sure we give you a name that we automatically own and we get all the money for it. And that's what it is at the end of the day. And this is what I'm talking about. There's a slippery slope when it comes to, is it good for business? This week, AEW gave us an update on their upcoming video game. AEW's first console video game was announced back in November 2020, and there's finally an update on the game's release date. According to Fightful Select, Sean Rossap, the tentative internal release date has been set for September for quite some time. The game is being developed by Yuke's, which previously worked on WWE console games for nearly two full decades. Hideyuko Gede Iwashita, the director of the classic title WWF No Mercy, will also be contributing. As have you seen it? Some of the images from I think 7 months ago. It seems like when it comes to the style of game, they're going for less realism, a lot more arcade, a little bit faster than what WWE has. But they really Kenny Omega's already stated, like, as far as the visual presentation, they're not going to be up there with what 2K has done, but they're trying to make them a fun game. As you can see, with a lot of how the wrestlers' gameplay is done and how they wrestle very light. There's not the heavyism of like body movement to show like realism, because when there's realism, you got to put some type of weight with how the characters walk, how they throw punches, how they take punches, where it seems with the new AEW game and what we've seen so far, everything is very light, gives it a more arcadey type feel. But this year, as Laylo will attest to, WWE and 2K have knocked it out the park. um, and a lot of people have said that. So like they're not coming into a year where WWE screwed the pooch, and everybody could be like, "Oh, look at this AEW game." No, they really have to be going after um, a good WWE game, and they're going to be compared to it, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for AEW. And September, like it seems like it's a long way away, but when it comes to creating video games, it's not. That crunch time is going to be hell. I have a friend who's currently creating a game for Bethesda. He's worked there for years. Almost every Bethesda game he has had his hand in, and I've seen him during when it comes into crunch time, especially for stuff like Skyrim and things like that. Uh, um, it's a mess, and especially when it comes to QA, which is quality assurance. Um, I hope they're gonna pay those people off well, and they try to catch as many glitches as they can, because that can come up on you soon. As you can see right now, when it comes to 2K, Gruss is playing it right now. Low key addicted, but don't have much time to play. Daddy duties and all that. But as he says, it's fire. He just finished his third build. That's where we are right now. We got multiple builds going through 2K. I haven't started it because I really don't have the time as well. And I know if I start, like, I'm gonna then start making the time, and I'm gonna be up to like 6 a.m. I'm not trying to play myself at this moment. Let me get some things out the way so I can enjoy it fully. But AEW is coming into some shit, boy. That's exactly what's happening. But let's get to some quick hits. PW Insider reports that Pat Buck, who quit his job as a producer for WWE right after WrestleMania 38, is already working for a producer for AEW. So it seems like he already had talks before he even left. Western Observer Radio's Dave Meltzer speculate that Tony Khan's huge announcement this upcoming Wednesday could be related to either a broadcast deal for Ring of Honor or a streaming deal for AEW. So guess we'll be finding out on Wednesday. Fightful mentioned that before WWE settled on the name of Ludwig Kaiser for Marcel Barthel, they were initially going to choose the name Ludwig Klaus. Keep it super German. Rey Mysterio missed Raw this week due to a medical issue. Per Wrestling Observer Radio's Dave Meltzer, he could be back in a week or two. As WWE continues building up a title unification match with the Usos, Wrestling Observer notes RK Bro are advertised for the next 2 episodes of SmackDown, so we will see them tonight. WWE's upcoming UK pay-per-view had more than 59,000 people pre-register for tickets in the first 24 hours, reports Alex McCarthy. That's a new company record surpassing any WrestleMania. Also, I think that place only holds 72,000. So they sold majority of the tickets already. 59,000 already pre-registered. So this is going to be a yearly show. Just off that, this is going to be a yearly show. Carl, and I'll say this. Next year, do not be surprised if SummerSlam is in the UK. Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows' Impact contract expires in July, according to PW Insider. The duo recently teased testing free agent waters in an interview with What Culture. Well, I know damn well they're not ending up back in the E. I'm not even sure if AEW wants them. I guess it's going to be MLW because I have no idea what's going to go on for those next 2, or they're heading back to New Japan. That's most likely what's going to happen. I'm going to put that at number 1, heading back to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now let's talk about what's going on tonight in the world of wrestling. Tonight, WWE SmackDown on Fox will take place at the DC Youth Center in Worcester, Massachusetts. WWE has announced 2 matches for tonight's show. Ricochet will defend the WWE Intercontinental Championship against Jinder Mahal, and Drew McIntyre will face Sami Zayn in a rematch from last week's bout that ended in a count-out win for McIntyre. WWE events website, they are advertising RK Bro being at the event, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. And that's really all they have. I'm pretty sure the Usos are going to be there. I'm pretty sure Roman Reigns is going to be there. But that's all that they have announced at this moment. Now, let's move on to Rampage, because AEW Rampage is airing tonight at 7 p.m. Because we have NBA playing basketball tonight. My sons get to figure out who they're facing, and that's going to supersede everything that AEW does. This is why when I say that AEW is a production company that TBS and TNT pays for and not a thing that's within the schedule, because they would have made sure to not put them in places like this where they have to constantly change due to what sport is going on. But, when you pay, you're just like, you go. We'll just move you wherever you want to, because, we already paid the rights for it. But it's going to be 7 p.m. on TNT tonight. The latest edition of AEW's Friday Night Show comes our way live from Curtis Colwell Center from Garland, Texas. Tonight's card features Hangman Page defending the AEW World Championship against Adam Cole in a Texas death match. We also have the Blackpool Combat Club, Bryan Dance, John Moxley, and Wheeler Yuta take on the God Club in a trios match. We have Ruby Soho going 1-on-1 with Robin Renegade in a qualifying match for the upcoming Women's Owen Hart tournament. Right now, make sure to tune in tomorrow, 10:30 to, I believe it's 1 p.m. Lay Low, Two-Face, Travis will all be breaking down every show that happened this week. Also, any news that happened within the next 24 hours. Tomorrow on Saturday, make sure to tune in live. It's a super show. Yeah, that's it. It is the WoW Nation Super Show that's going to be happening tomorrow. Hopefully, we're not sued by the company that I work for. So make sure to tune in find out what's going on in the world of wrestling, what we thought about what's going on in the world of wrestling. And I will see y'all next Monday. And as I said plenty of times, you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you were here with me, and I thank you for that. As the homie Gruss said, nope, not really Two-Face, but Gruss did say really Two-Face. Happy Easter to everybody. 10:30 a.m. tomorrow till Monday. Peace. Enjoy yourself. And like I always say, enjoy some good wrestling tonight. Peace.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to know when we go live next. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestling on We, and thanks for watching.